Hey students, I am here to give you a sentence structure review. A lot of you can use this if you're in middle school. There might be some high school students that want a little bit review on this. Review never hurts. There's always things that we forget. So today we're going to talk about building strong sentences. So sentence structure is very important. We really need to know what we're doing. And look, I have gotten off the video. Let's come back to where we were. Sentence structure review. That was a picture of my cat. Got to put something up there different for a moment. If you like to do my writing prompts, this is a good way to do a warm up for writing. Everything needs a warm up. Like I was an athlete, I always warmed up. You can stop this video, set a timer for 3 minutes, and write something without stopping using these four words in any order: potatoes, elevator, subways, remember. Don't worry about grammar. It's just a good warm up. So set a timer, write for 3 minutes, share it with somebody fun if you want to. It can be any genre. It can be fun, it could be silly, it could be serious, it could be nonfiction, fiction, and just get warmed up and then turn the video back on. I am not going to pause for 3 minutes, but it just shows you some good. Anytime you're writing, you're learning something. You're becoming a better writer. So use these warm-up exercises. Now, if you have done the warm-up or if you skipped it, we're back. We're going to start with clauses and phrases. I've got it on the screen here to kind of just let you see some of the basic parts that make up our writing. A clause is a group of words that has both a subject and a verb. Clauses can express a complete thought, which is an independent clause, or it can express only a part of a thought, a dependent clause. For example, look at the first one here. I built a boat. Oh, went backwards again. I built a boat. That is an independent clause. It can stand by itself. I don't need to say anything else. Somebody says, "What did you do today?" I say, "I built a boat." It's got a subject, I, and a verb, built. And you can put a period at the end, it stands alone. But look at the same thought with a dependent clause. If I put the word when in front of it, it's not a complete sentence. It still has a subject, I, and it still has a verb, built, but it doesn't express a complete thought. It leaves you hanging if I say that. When I built a boat, if I stop there, you're thinking, well, what happened when you built a boat? When I built a boat needs something after it for it to be an independent clause. So when I built a boat, comma, I worked with my dad, or I was living in another state, or I was only 10 years old. So when I built a boat, I was only 10 years old. When I built a boat, I worked with my dad. That makes it then a complete thought. Now, what is a phrase? A phrase is a group of words that stand together, but they don't have a subject or a verb. So I built a boat has a subject and a verb. I is a subject, built is the verb. But look at this, in the morning. It's a group of words that need to stay together to express a thought, but there's no subject or verbs. So in the morning, I get to sleep late. In the morning, I have to go to school. In the morning, I have an appointment. In 1998, my mother traveled out of the country. So these are things that are phrases. They need to stay together to express a thought, but they don't have a subject or verb. So we put clauses and phrases together to make our sentences, to write our papers, to write our short stories. Let's look at how we put them together. A simple sentence has one independent clause. Now, it can have a compound subject or a compound verb. Compound means more than one together, but it's still just one independent clause. The dog barked at the school. You see, I've got the subjects in red, and if you can tell the difference between the black and the purple, the verbs are in purple. Dog barked. That's subject and verb. The dog barked at the squirrel. It's still a simple sentence if I add another subject. The dog and the cat chased the bird. Or if I add another verb, the dog chased the bird and tried to jump up the tree to reach it. It's still one independent clause, one simple sentence there together. Let's look at some of these and identify subject and verb. Anush and Susan went to the ball game yesterday. These are simple sentences. Anush, Susan. Two subjects. The verb is went. The Braves won the World Series in Game 6. My dog likes peanut butter as a treat. The other one, Braves, is the subject. One is the verb. Dog is the subject. My dogs, excuse me, and like is the verb. Now look at this. I added something here. We're going to talk about that. I added a dependent clause. When I hike, I take at least one dog with me. When I hike is a dependent clause. We're going to talk about that in a minute, adding. But notice I changed a little I and hike, subject and verb. But then this sentence has another I and take is the verb. So here we are. Let's look at in two independent clauses together. Compound means more than one. So that means I'm putting two sentences together as one. Two independent clauses that I'm putting together as one. So how do we why do we put two sentences together? Why don't we just make them two sentences? Well, a really good paper has some short sentences and a combination of longer sentences with phrases at the beginning or end. Think if I told you a story and it was all just very simple. I got home at 6. I opened my front door. I saw my dogs. I heard someone call my name. I did not know my friend was there. My friend had a surprise. That becomes boring after a little bit. Look at the things that you read that you like to read. The sentences are all different styles and lengths. So what makes a good paper is that you have different types of sentences. So sometimes if we have a lot of short sentences in a row, we need to put two of them together to make it a little bit more interesting for the reader. So, for example, the student wanted to be named valedictorian of his class. Valedictorian is the person who's got the highest grade. However, he made a B in his last math course. The purple is one sentence. The red is another sentence. Complete sentences. I could have put a period after class and stopped. But to make it more readable for the reader, I had a short sentences in a row. Now I'm going to put two together to make it a little bit longer. The however joins it together. Now that green punctuation before however is a semicolon. You can put two sentences together with a semicolon. Look at the next sentence. The woman hoped to finish her master's degree, and she enrolled in online courses to take her last two classes. Two sentences. The purple is the first one. The woman hoped to finish her master's degree. I could put a period there. She enrolled in online courses to take her last two classes. That's a totally separate sentence. What puts these two together is and. Now, why do I have fanboys in green there? Notice with however, I put a semicolon. If it's what we call one of the fanboys, if it's a conjunction that's for, follow fanboys, I'm doing what the letters stand for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. If any of those conjunctions that put the two sentences together, one of the fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, you put a comma instead of a semicolon. So notice before the and, it's the A in fanboys. I put a comma. However, is not one of those. So if you look at the first sentence, I put a semicolon there. I know it sounds confusing. This is just a quick review. We have to review these things often. So come back to it, look at a book, open a book, and see which type of sentences you see. See if you can decide which type of sentences that I have. Here's another type of sentence is, what does the sentence do? Exclamatory is a sentence that shows strong feelings and ends with an exclamation point. I won the game! Exclamation mark. Declarative. It's just a sentence that just tells us something and ends with a period. I got home late from school today, period. An interrogative sentence asks a question and ends with a question mark. And an imperative tells somebody to do something, and it can either end with a period or end with an exclamation mark. If I say, I cleaned my room today, that's a declarative sentence. That just says what I did, period. Imperative is when somebody tells you to do something. Please clean your room today. You can put a period there, but think about if it's a parent who has told you 6 times already. On the seventh time, they may say it a little bit louder, and you may need an exclamation mark. Clean your room today! Exclamation mark. So we had two sentence types, a simple sentence and a compound sentence, which are two sentences put together. And then we also have four sentence types that tell us what type of sentence it is: exclamatory, declarative, interrogative, or imperative. All four of these can either be simple or compound. Does that, like I can have an imperative I can have a declarative sentence that has two sentences together. I wanted to go to the movies tonight, comma, but I had not finished my homework. That's a declarative sentence, but it's also a compound sentence because I put two sentences together. This is just a review. You might have to come back to this a few times. Here's some examples. Declarative sentence. She won a medal at her first track meet. Interrogative, which is a question. Are you on the baseball team? Imperative is a command. Get ready to leave for the airport. An exclamatory or exclamative sentence. I got a new bike for my birthday. So there's some examples that you can see. Practice writing these. Practice writing several sentences and then see if you could come back and see what type of sentence they are. Here's to writing. If you want a little writing exercise, pause here. Pause here at the history of poetry. I put some thoughts down that are not necessarily sentences. And I want to see if you can put these thoughts into sentences and then decide what type of sentences they are. I don't have an example of the perfect answer for this. You're going to have to put these thoughts into sentences on your own and get somebody who's helping you to look at them and make sure they're sentences, or you reread them yourself and see if they're sentences. For example, predates written text. Poetry was spoken before people could even write it down. So that means predates. Before we find examples of people writing, we know that people were speaking in poetry because we have early works that refer back to poetry that was never written down. Predates written text is a phrase, it's not a complete sentence. If I want it to be a complete sentence, you would need to say, have a subject and a verb. So predates can be the verb. You could say something like poetry predates written text and put a period at the end. Same thing with originally spoken or sung. You could say poetry was originally spoken or sung. So you can turn this into a paragraph, decide what order you would need to put the sentences in, and turn these into sentences. These are just some historical thoughts that I put down from my poetry class, one of the poetry classes that I used to teach. These are just some phrases that I put up here, some thoughts that I put up here. See if you could turn these into a paragraph using only this. You don't have to go research poetry. Take what I have and see if you can turn these thoughts into some sentences. A little bit complicated. And then put those sentences together as a paragraph. Same thing with history of aviation. If you turn the video off and do the poetry, and then come back and want another challenge, writing challenge, here are some thoughts about the history of aviation that I put down. Now, notice I didn't put it in historical order. So you're going to have to decide if you write a paragraph about this, what's the best order to put these sentences in? This is not in any type of order by date. It's all mixed up on purpose for you to practice not only putting this information in sentences, but then building a paragraph and deciding what order you need to put the sentences in. There's not just one right answer. One of the most logical things to do, probably one of the things that most of us would do, is put it in order of the earliest. So the earliest thing I have here is history of aviation, dates to 5th century, when invention of kites in China. Now notice that's not a full sentence. That's just a thought. Doesn't have a full subject and verb, doesn't have a period at the end. So I want you to see if you can put these in complete sentences, get a period at the end, see if you can identify the subject and the verb. And then once you build sentences, you build paragraphs. So then figure out which order you would need to put those sentences in for the reader to understand what you're talking about. Anytime you're writing, you're becoming a better writer. Anytime you're doing these exercises, it's making you think. You're not only learning a little bit of history, but it's making you think about what type of sentences you're using. You can add some other sentences to this if you want to look up a little bit more about aviation, but you can also just use what I have here, turn it into a good solid paragraph. And then here's another good challenge that I like to go with to practice writing sentences and then go back and see if you can identify what type of sentence they are. Write a really good book review. Using this is kind of an outline without numbers. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4 topic sentence. Include the title and author of the story or book that you're writing about, and tell me what genre, what type of book it is. Fantasy has a lot of magic or make-believe in it. Historical fiction means it's based on truth, like it might have some true characters in it, but it's fiction. It's not true because the writer added a lot of other things to it. Science fiction is things like time travel, space travel, computers, technology. A realistic story means it's something that could really happen. It could be nonfiction or fiction. Nonfiction means it's true, and you're just telling a story about a good vacation that somebody went on or something. So then you do a summary or overview of the plot and characters. This is not a book report. You don't add every detail that you would need to do in a book report to prove you read the book. You summarize it. You just tell a little bit to let people know what the book is about. Then you add your opinion for a book review. Did you like this book? Why or why not? What did you like about it? Was it funny? Was it because it had a lot of football in it and you liked football? Was it because um, it was set on a beach and you love something about a beach and it reminded you of a vacation with your family? And then conclusion. Who would like to read this book? What ages? I don't want you to put somebody's name and say Jack would like to read the book. Say anybody who likes football would like this book, or anybody who likes adventure would like this book, as long as they're at least 6 years old or at least 10 years old. Like a 6-year-old can't read the same book as a 10-year-old because they haven't learned all the vocabulary, all the words. So put a statement about how old do you think you have to be to read this book? And what type of person would like it? Like an outdoor, people who like outdoor adventure would like it, or people who like to study Egypt would like it because it was set in Egypt, or people who like funny things would like it. And then go back and see if you can identify what type of sentences you have in there. Do you ask a question, which would be interrogative? Is it a declarative? Most of these sentences will be declarative, which means they're just stating something. But then go back to our original and see if it's a simple sentence or a compound sentence where you put two sentences together. So there's some things to think about sentence structure and building paragraphs and building thoughts. So I hope this was helpful. It's just meant to be a good review, and it gives you a few writing exercises in there that you can go back to and and refer to, do over and over again. So keep writing. As I said before, anytime you're writing, you're becoming a better writer. So do these writing exercises over and over again, and then go back and reread them and see, do I have all short sentences? Did I put some sentences together? Did I add a phrase at the beginning of some of the sentences? See if you can identify what your sentence types are and see if you have a good balance between long and short. All right, keep writing, writers. Hang in there.